We begin now on Daf Chav Dalet Amud Aleph in Maseches Brachos. This is Brachos Daf 24a. The Gemara just finished saying that according to Shmuel, a person, even if he is in his bed with his wife, it is okay for him to put his tefillin under his head. And the Gemara explains why is that the case. Kol liniturinhu tvei adif. It's more important to protect the tefillin, and even if there's going to be a little bit of a bizayon, but if you're protecting them from the achbarim, from the rats, from the thieves, it is better to do that. So the Gemara now continues, where precisely do you put the tefillin when you're keeping them under your head in your bed? Amar Rav Yirmiyah ben Kar Lekesses, you should put them between the pillow and the blanket, shelo keneged rosho, but not exactly directly under the head. But didn't Rabbi Chia say that you put it in their sack underneath his head? Sounds like directly. So the Gemara says, so what you do is the tefillin, you kind of put them at the edge of the bag that they are in, so that they are they're sticking out and they're not directly under your head. Bar Kapar similarly, he would wrap them. There was a canopy around his bed. He would wrap them in there, and again he would have it that it would stick out towards the outside, and not towards the bed itself. Rav Shisha Breder Ravidi Monachlu Ashar Shifa Upar Sudra Ilavayu. So Rav Shisha, the son of Ravidi, used to put them on a bench, and he would put a blanket or a handkerchief over to cover them up on top of them. So these are the various ways that people would protect their tefillin overnight. Amar Rav Hamnuna Breder of Yosef, Rav Hamnuna, the son of Rav Yosef, said, Zimna Chada Hava Ka'imna Kamei de Rava. One time I was standing in front of Rava, Amar Lini said to me, Zil Aisi li tefillin. Go and bring me my tefillin. Ben Rosho. And I found that they were between the pillow and the blanket, not corresponding to where his head was, which is exactly the way Rav Yirmiyah explained. Now I also knew that this was the day of Tvilah, meaning I knew that he had been with his wife, and he was telling me to retrieve them in order to teach us halacha l'maisa. He wanted to show that it's appropriate to put your tefillin, to keep your tefillin protected in your bed, even when the person is with his wife in the bed. Rav Yosef Breder Rav Nechunya Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Nechunya, asked Rav Yehuda, Shnayim sheyeshenim b'mita achas, if you have two people who are sleeping in one bed, mahu shezeh yachzer panav v'yikra kriyas shema, v'zeh yachzer panav v'yikra kriyas shema. What is the halacha regarding having each person turn away? So this one will turn his head away from the other one and say Shema. The other one will turn his head away and say Shema. Is that permissible? Amar lehachi Amar Shmuel va'afilu ishto imo. So he said to him, well, Shmuel said, even when a person's wife is with him in the bed, and we can conclude just like when a person's wife is with him in the bed that he can turn away, so too anybody, if he's sleeping with anyone in the bed, it's permissible. So according to Shmuel, it would apparently be permitted regardless. Ma'askiv la Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef asks, Ishto v'lomi bayacher. So you're trying to suggest that his wife, and certainly you don't even need to tell me that someone else would be permissible. Adra, on the contrary, Ishto kagufo. A person's wife is kagufo like himself. Acher lav kagufo. Another person is like another person. So maybe we should be more strict. He's suggesting that we should be more strict in a case where it's not the person's wife. So we have a machlokas amoraim here about that case. So the Gemara now asks from a brisa, Meisve, we ask from a brisa, Shnayim sheyeshenim b'mita achas zeh machzer panav v'kore v'zeh machzer panav v'kore. So it says two people in a bed, each one should turn away. Seems to be permitted. Betanya Acharisi, we have another brisa, Hayashin b'mita uvanav uvnei veso b'tzido. It says if a person sleeping in a bed, his children are with him. You should not read Kriyas Shema. There has to be some kind of separation of a talus between them. But if his children are ketanim, if they're minors, it would be permissible. So we have here one brisa which seems to permit it, and one brisa which seems to say it's problematic. Now, it's good according to Rav Yosef. He made a distinction between the person's wife and between a stranger or between another person. So we can simply answer that the brisa that permitted it was with his wife, and the brisa that said it's forbidden was with somebody else. Ela l'Shmuel kasha, but according to Shmuel, this is difficult because according to Shmuel, it should be permitted regardless. So why is there any brisa that says it's problematic? So Amar lach Shmuel Rav Yosef minicha. So Shmuel says, 1 second. According to Rav Yosef, is it really any better? What does it say over there? It says if his family is in the bed with him, it's prohibited. So family would seem to include a case where it's his wife. Ella mayis loch lemeimar. Ishtoler Rav Yosef Tanai. Obviously, you have to conclude that according to Rav Yosef, also a person's wife might be a machlokas tanoim. So there is an issue regarding a person's wife, whether it's permitted or not. So according to me, the same thing. You could say that there are tanoim that argue with what I am saying. There is a brisa against me, but nevertheless, I say it is permitted. I say it is permitted all the time. Gemara now continues at the two dots. Amar Mar, quoting the Bryce above, the master said, Zeh machzir panav v'korei Kriyas Shema. He said that this one turns his face away and recites Kriyas Shema v'ha'ika agvus. So the Gemara asks, well, what about the person's behind? That should be considered an erva that should prevent you from saying Kriyas Shema. In other words, assuming that these people are in the bed with no clothing on, turning away shouldn't help. You still have the person's behind should be considered erva. So the Gemara says, Messiah Leila Ravuna, this seems to support Ravuna. Damar Ravuna, Agvus ain b'mishum erva. Ravuna said that Agvus are not a problem of erva, so this would seem to support that idea. Lema Messiah Leila Ravuna. Let's bring another support for Ravuna. It says as follows: Ha'isha Yosheves v'kotza lachalsa aruma. This is a halacha by Hilchas Chala. It says that a woman is allowed to be naked and she's allowed to separate and make a bracha on the separation of chala. Because she's able to cover her erva in the front in the earth. Avaloa ish, but the man is not able to cover his erva in the front, and therefore he doesn't get this leniency. So apparently, there's no problem from the person's behind. So this would seem to be a proof that that's not problematic. So the Gemara answers, Tir Gemara of Nachman bar Yitzchak kagon shoyu panah tuchos bekarka. So he answers that no, in both cases, all situations here, we're talking about where the person's behind was covered with earth. There was like a mound of earth there back there. And so the only issue was in front, and that's why there's a distinction between a man and a woman. The Gemara now continues at the two dots. Amar Mar, the master said, it says if the person is in bed, and his children are in bed and they're ketanim, it is not problematic to say Shema in front of a katan. So the Gemara says Viad Kama, how old is considered to be a minor for this situation? Amar Rav Chisda says Tinokas bas shalosh shanim v'yom echad v'tinok ben tes shanim v'yom echad. For a girl, it would be until she's 3 years old. For a boy, it would be until he's 9 years old. Yikadiyamri Tinokas bas yud aleph shanim v'yom echad. Some people say for a girl it's until she's 11 years old. V'tinok ben shteim esrei shanim v'yom echad. And for a boy, it would be until 12 years old. The idea is, according to both opinions, the idea is that it's until they start maturing, and once they begin to mature, that's going to be a problem of reciting Kriyas Shema in front of them. The Gemara now continues. Amar le Rav Kahana Rav Ashi. Rav Kahana said to Rav Ashi, Hasam Amar Rava Afagav T'Tiyufta D'Shmuel Hilchas Hakavasi D'Shmuel. We said earlier in the previous Amud that even though there's a brisa against Shmuel, the halacha is like Shmuel, that even when a person's wife is with him in the bed, he can protect the tefillin and keep it there in the bed. Hachamai. So the question is, what about over here? This statement of Shmuel that we had over here, that a person's allowed to recite Kriyas Shema with his wife or with another individual in the bed. What's the halacha? Do we say the halacha is like him? Amar Lei said to him, Atu kulu b'chada machta machsina. What do you think? These are all woven from the same thread? Who says that just because the halacha is like Shmuel over there, that the halacha should be like Shmuel over here? Where the halacha was said to be like Shmuel, the halacha is like Shmuel. And where the halacha was not said to be like Shmuel, the halacha is not like Shmuel. Amar le Rav Mari le Rav Papa. Rav Mari said to Rav Papa, Sar yotze b'big doma. What if a person has clothing on, but there is a little bit of hair coming out of the private area that's coming onto the clothing? So is that going to be a problem of reciting Kriyas Shema? Is that going to be a problem of erva? The Gemara says, Kara le sar sar. He answered him, sar sar, meaning that there's nothing wrong with that. As Rashi says, kilomar ma bekach. What's the difference? That's not going to be a problem of erva. Gemara continues at the two dots. Amar Rav Yitzchak tefach b'isha erva. So first Rav Yitzchak says a tefach of exposed skin on a woman, it would be considered erva. So the Gemara says, Lamai, for what practical purpose? If we're talking about that you're not supposed to stare at it, to look at it. V'amar Rav Sheisha, but Rav Sheisha said, Lama mana hakasav tachshitin shebechutz im tachshitin shebefnim. So the pasuk, when it's listing various spoils of war with Midian, it lists all together things that are worn in ornaments that are worn in the private areas and ornaments that are other ornaments. So why is it all listed together? Lomar lach, to tell you, kol mistakel betzbakatana shalisha. It's to tell you that anybody who looks even at the small finger of a woman, ke'ilu mistakel b'makom ha'torah. That's the same as looking at the private area. So trying to derive any pleasure from any area would be problematic, and that is why the ornaments in the shebifnim are compared to the ornaments shebachutz. But the Gemara says ella. So the Gemara says it cannot be for that purpose. Ella be'ishlo l'kriyas shema. What we mean when we say tefach on a woman is erva, we're referring to his own wife. And regarding Kriya Shema, that a person shouldn't say Kriya Shema in front of his own wife if there's a tefach exposed. Amar Rav Chisda says shok bi'isha erva. The shok would be some area of the leg on a woman would be erva. Shenamar, like it says galei shok evrei naharo. So let's say the thigh area. So it calls it ivrei naharo. So chsiv tagil ervascha v'gam tirach erpascha. So the pasuk over there refers to the shok and then refers to it as ervascha. Amar Shmuel says kol bi'isha erva. The voice of a woman is erva. Shenemar ki kol cha'arif u'marecha na'ava. Your voice is sweet and you are beautiful. Amar Rav Sheshes said sar bi'isha erva. A hair of a woman is considered erva. Shenemar, like it says se'arecha ke'eder ha'izim. So all these different various parts of the body referred to in these psukim are considered to be erva, and this is specifically regarding the recitation of Kriyas Shema. Gemara now continues at the two dots. Amar Rabbi Chanina ani ra'isias Rebbe shetala tefilov. Rabbi Chanina testified that I saw Rebbe that he would hang up his tefillin. So Meizve, we have a question from a brisa. Tola tefilov yislu lo chayev. Person tries to hang up his tefillin, he should be hung by his life. Dor shechamuro samro. Those who darshan said v'hayu chayecha teluyim l'chami neged zeh tola tefilov. When it talks about your life hanging in front of you, that refers to someone who hangs the tefillin. So it seems like you're not supposed to hang the tefillin. So the Gemara says lokash. It's not difficult. Ha biritzua. It depends. If you hang them up by the straps, that's problematic. It's hanging upside down. If you hang it up with the bottom, it's not problematic. V'ibay same, or we can answer loshna ritzuva loshna k'tzitza aser. It's always problematic to hang up the tefillin. V'chitola Rebbe bechista tola. Rebbe was hanging it up in its pouch. If so, if you hang it up, if you're hanging up the tefillin in the tefillin bag, what's the difference? So the Gemara says, I might think, no, it's got to be placed down like a Sefer Torah, Kamash Malan. So it's coming to teach us it does not. V'amer Rabbi Chanina said, Ani ro'isias Rabbi shegihek ufihek v'nesate shvarok. These are various things that he saw Rabbi doing during Shemona Esrei. So gihek is when a person is burping. Pihek is a person who is yawning. Nesatesh is sneezing. Varok is spitting. So these are the various things he saw that he saw him doing during Shemona Esrei. And we will continue this on the next Amud, Tav Chav Daled Amud Beis.